Ladies and gentlemen, as a courtesy to our speakers, flash photography is prohibited. Please turn off your cell phones and take your seats. Our program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Our program will begin in 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, our program will now begin. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, Robert Sugarman.
Good morning. I am honored to be at this year's policy conference with dozens of officials from the executive branch, including Ambassador Samantha Power and National Security Advisor Susan Rice, more than 350 members of Congress, including nearly 3/4 of the Senate, ambassadors and representatives from more than 60 countries all over the world, many state and local officials, multiple Knesset members and officials from the government of Israel, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And I am once again privileged to bring greetings from the Conference of Presidents of major American Jewish organizations. Let me first express the appreciation of the conference to the leaders of AIPAC. Bob Cohen is an active and impactful participant in the activities of the conference, and Howard Kaur is an invaluable resource as we strive to meet the challenges which confront us. The Conference of Presidents, which celebrated its 50th anniversary last year, has 50 member organizations from all religious streams and representing the whole spectrum of supporters of the State of Israel. Our motto is strength through unity, and there has never been a time when it has been more important to maintain unity in our community. While we may differ on strategy, tactics, and even policy, we share a common goal to preserve the safety and security of the State of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state, and to that end, to maintain the strong and vibrant relationship between the United States and Israel. Today, that relationship is strong. The annual mission to Israel just took place 2 weeks ago, and everything we heard there confirms that on a military, intelligence, and security level, the relationship between the U.S. and Israel has never been stronger. Yes, we have disagreed with some of the positions of the administration, as we have with positions of past administrations. And we have voiced and will continue to voice those disagreements in a firm and respectful way, never, however, engaging in unwarranted personal attacks and never losing sight of the necessity of maintaining the critical and bipartisan relationship between our country and its most dependable ally, the State of Israel. That relationship has been challenged in the past, yet each time the relationship has emerged stronger than before, and that was because organizations like AIPAC and the other members of the conference worked hard to ensure that outcome. That is our challenge today, and I have every confidence that we will meet it as we have in the past. Thank you again for making AIPAC the great organization that it is, and for your dedication to the safe and secure future of the State of Israel. Thank you very much.
Well, you guys want to listen to the news? You know, politics are always on my mind. I always have news on in the car. My kids know who all of the talk shows are. They always say the things you shouldn't talk about are religion and politics, and I think I'm probably in a lot of trouble because that's all I ever really want to talk about.
Oh, that's great. All right, well, we'll get ready for soccer practice, right?
Sometimes my kids wonder why we have so many meetings and why we work so hard. They know that they're all about Israel. They would always want to know, well, why does Israel need so much help?
This was really nice. When did you do it?
At that point, it really hit me. Okay, now's the time that I need to really explain to my kids that things aren't always so peaceful in Israel.
Go ahead, Aaron, you can pour in this one.
They've certainly been at our home for events. And they know that what we do here in the United States makes a difference to the U.S.-Israel relationship and the future of the Jewish people.
Oh, this looks good.
I really started to get interested in politics in the early 2000s when Intifada was going on, and it was just so dangerous.
Great. Okay.
I really started just paying more attention to the world events, and with that came politics and realizing how our U.S. Congress and our Congress people here have an impact on what happens overseas.
Thank you so much for meeting with me today.
We tend to think that a congressperson or their staff are experts in everything, but they look to us to teach them about things that they may not know so much about. And certainly Israel and the relationship between the United States and Israel is something that I'm able to educate them about.
Sheriff here in Harris County.
I've learned so much about politics over these few years, and it really is about relationships. AIPAC always says relationships matter, and the more I do this, the more that I realize that that's just the bedrock of our work. There are so many organizations that do good work, but none of them are a substitute for AIPAC.
Is directly affected by the
Mark and I are Capital Club members, and quite a few years ago, we decided that AIPAC is something that we wanted to put in our will, so we're also AIPAC Tomorrow campaign members. But that's really not enough. There's another part to the equation that can't be forgotten, and that is political giving.
about our meeting tomorrow night with the senator.
We have a great network here in Houston of pro-Israel activists. Being involved in pro-Israel politics is absolutely critical because we not only have the opportunity to help them financially, but it's so much more meaningful if we can support a candidate as a pro-Israel bipartisan community. So with all the traveling that my family has done over the years, I hadn't been to Israel yet, and I was always the only one in the whole room of Israel supporters who had never been to Israel. Luckily, we were able to rectify that last year, and it was unbelievable. People told me that as soon as the plane touched down, they said, "I bet you cry." And I did. I cried when the plane touched down.
Oh, that's a good one.
And having 3 small boys, they loved the tank museum, climbing up on all of the different equipment. We went to Ammunition Hill, going to a farm and making olive oil. And those are the kinds of things that I thought that my kids would really find the most exciting. And so it was really a surprise to me to hear my son say that one of his favorite parts was the prayer that Daddy said on Masada. And my husband's prayer was that my children should grow up to be happy and healthy and that there be peace for Israel.
Oh, no, that was on my finger.
When I think about my boys growing up, it scares me when I think about what's going on in Israel and what it's like to be a Jew in the world now. There has to be a Jewish homeland for us. It's critical that Israel be safe. And my children know that the work that we're doing today is for our future as Jews in the world.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, AIPAC activist Elise Newman. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Ruben Gallego and Evan Jenkins.
Thank you. Israel is a land of immigrants where many cultures come together. As the son of Colombian and Mexican immigrants, I commend Israel for being a nation that welcomes diversity and celebrates its new inhabitants.
Israel's a democracy in a region where none exists, a land that celebrates freedom and speech and thought.
Israel faces many challenges with the region's instability. As an Iraq War veteran and a Marine, I see Israel as an unwavering ally and friend.
On January 6, 2015, new members were sworn into the U.S. Congress, each of us with our own stories and backgrounds. We come here today representatives of a new class of leaders inspired by the shared vision and value of the United States and Israel and the strength of the U.S.-Israel relationship.
In this room, we are among friends. In 2012, I traveled to Israel with AIPAC's Education Foundation. As a member of the Arizona State House, I saw incredible opportunities for cooperation between my state and the people of Israel. Opportunities for economic growth and partnership always continue.
In this room, we stand united. In a city that can be divided by politics, the U.S.-Israel relationship unites us. There is a proud tradition in Congress of bipartisan support for Israel, a tradition that we are honored to continue.
So today, on the same day that Congress will hear from the Prime Minister of Israel, thousands of you will also be visiting us at Capitol Hill and meet our congressional offices.
Together we stand to make a statement that the United States and Israel stand shoulder to shoulder, that even though the names on the offices change, the U.S. Congress will support our greatest ally in the Middle East.
Thank you all for your friendship, and may God bless Israel, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Charleston is an oasis. It's beautiful. All the highways lead to Charleston. And so it is the center of West Virginia life, at least in terms of city life. One of the powerful reasons why it is such a nice place to be as a rabbi, especially if you're interested in the U.S.-Israel relationship, is because we're predicated on the idea that relationships matter. In West Virginia, you can't walk more than a block without seeing someone and you get into a conversation, and the reason you're late to your appointment, which everybody knows, is because you bumped into somebody. Those are relationships that matter. That's what Israel's all about, and that's what you see in West Virginia. And it's a natural connection then between West Virginia and Israel. January 9th was a terrible tragedy that hit our area. Our water supply comes from the Elk River, and there was a chemical leak that spilled into the Elk River. People started noticing in the morning that there was a smell, a licorice smell that was coming from their water. My wife noticed it when she was in school. The kids were talking about it. But again, it didn't have any connection or any understanding of what was going to be happening in the next few hours when the governor issued the ban on all water. The National Guard of the state of West Virginia acted heroically in terms of trying to get water as quickly as they can to the citizens. Little by little, they tried to restore life as best as we could. We didn't know how long the crisis was going to take. There were businesses that were completely shut down. They had to be shut down because they couldn't wash their dishes, nothing. When this crisis occurred, I received a call shortly after from the Consul General's Office of Israel from Philadelphia. And their first question is, we heard your problem. What can we do to help? Israel's concerned.
I read on the internet an article that in West Virginia there's a problem supplying water to the capital, Charleston. You don't check borders when you deal with water supply. And if you can help someone that needs help and can use your experience in that period of time, you just do it. So I pick up the phone and I talk to the head of the Home Front Command in West Virginia, and I understand they have a water crisis in big scales. We decided to send a delegation to West Virginia with experts with all kinds of expertise like water quality, how to treat water contaminations, and how to supply water in times of crisis. What was amazing in West Virginia is it has so much space, they have so much large mountains. I mean, in Israel, everything is almost flat. I was amazed. We have a welcoming, open-handed with all people we met, from the governor to Senator Manchin.
My concern is West Virginia should have the best water in the world. So with Danny and his group, they're able to help us rise to the level that we want to rise to. And we're going to make sure that we don't go through this again.
We had a few days of discussion there. We gave them some proposition how to supply water on a more technological way. We recommended they'll have an online detection system on the water sources that if they have contamination, they'll not be surprised and be able to operate immediately. I hope that West Virginia learned from our experience. I must say that I learned from their experience from this event.
There's not a better friend to have when you have a water concern, a challenge, than Danny with his group in the Israeli Water Authority. It's a very unique situation that you don't realize how intertwined we are and how dependent we are on each other until you see that collaboration. And I think it really made an impression on West Virginians who have not been exposed to the caring and the outreach that Danny brought with his Israeli contingency, with the expertise, because they cared about us.
Israel is a small country. West Virginia is a small state. We're all family. When I see how Israel responds, not just for friends, but internationally, when I see what Israel has developed under the most difficult situations, a constant state of war, this incredible democracy not having one moment of peace, and what it does for the world, that's my Israel.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC National Council member, Rabbi Victor Urecki.
Last summer, Senator Manchin and I traveled to Israel together with the support of AIPAC's Education Foundation. We toured the country and met with a wide array of experts in a lot of different fields, including experts from Israel's Water Authority. On behalf of the more than 300,000 citizens of my beloved state of West Virginia and my hometown, Charleston, please join me in thanking a man who I am honored to call a true friend. Ladies and gentlemen, from Israel's Water Authority, Danny Lacker. You know, everyone tells you how amazing it is to go to Israel, but few people tell you how amazing it is when Israel comes to you. Thank you, Danny.
I'm a psychologist and a clinical social worker. I'm a Maggid Shir in yeshiva every single day. I'm a moel. I'm a medic for Hatzalah. I'm a first responder, in an anti-terrorist unit. I drive a motorcycle for Yichud Hatzalah. And I play running back for the Jerusalem Lions. It's a team sport. No individual athlete can make that much of a difference when you have players on each side going hard. You really have to work together. Definitely on our team, and I think really on all the teams throughout the league, everyone really supports one another. I think that's what we're about. It's a beautiful sport, a great way to release energy. Truth is, it's very therapeutic too. Israel has been really a melting pot for many different cultures and societies, and what we're trying to do is take the best from everywhere. And the Israelis really, bring their own flavor to everything that they do.
I moved here in the 70s, and I loved the country, loved everything about it, but there was something really, really missing for me, and that was football. So I got together with a bunch of friends, and we formed a little touch football league. And it grew, and eventually, we grew to 2,000 players all over the country.
Yeah, my name's Abraham Dov Rosenblum. I mean, I get it all the time. People want to see my ID and see if I'm really Jewish. My parents always pushed it on me to come to Israel, but I was always focused on football, and I probably wouldn't have left if there wasn't football in Israel. They want me to find a Jewish girl and marry her. You know, you can go play football, but find a nice Jewish girl and settle down. I want grandchildren. You can't get any more Jewish than that. It's an amazing thing that sports really brings people from extremely different backgrounds together. I mean, we have Mexicans, we have Canadians, we have Americans, we have Israelis. You've got this guy, me, who's a black guy from the Bay Area, and then you've got Joseph, who's an Israeli Arab.
Avi is like my little brother. I took him under my wings. He's a Jew. I'm a Christian Arab. And this is how it's like in this league. When people from different culture get together to play, the only thing that matters is the team and the love of football. And the football team is my second family. Brotherhood. This is what wins games, nothing else. Let's go, guys! Have it on three! 1, 2, 3!
We are working not only to bring football into Israel, but also Israel into American football. I work on a dairy farm, and I am the unofficial photographer of the Jerusalem Lions. Good photography is not just about taking nice pictures. It's about discovery. It is a way of discovering that there is always more than meets the eye. I made a lot of friends here, people I didn't even expect to meet.
Football is an ultimate team game. It has to be a perfect combination in order to make everything click and for your team to be successful.
What helps us win? Well, good communication, unity, and good attitude.
What helps me win is basically playing as a team. Simple as that.
You will always be there for your teammate.
I hope this league will show all the people in Israel how you should live together.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of American football in Israel, Steve Leibowitz. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC National Council members, Reverend Dr. Tony Crisp and Sam Lauter.
Let's hit our spot. I was raised in the hills of East Tennessee. At age 7, my mother and my father abandoned me. I was raised by my grandmother. We had no running water. We bartered for our groceries. We raised chickens and calves. America in the 1960s was in turmoil. In my small conservative world, politics didn't play a role. Education was not a priority. Travel wasn't even a thought that crossed our minds back then. Life was lived day to day, hand to mouth.
I didn't have the same beginnings as Tony. My world was very different, surrounded by family deeply engaged in politics in Israel. I like to say that I was born into AIPAC and raised in San Francisco. My mom, Naomi, is one of the founding leaders of this organization and one of its first staff members outside of Washington. Pro-Israel activism has long run in my family. My grandmother was an active Zionist long before Israel was founded. My mom fed on that passion and took us along for the ride. Growing up, our house was a gathering place for political causes. One day, civil rights, the next day, Israel, the next, the Democratic Party. As a child, I marched in rallies for Soviet and Ethiopian Jewry, women's rights, and any number of other progressive causes.
At age 19, I left Tennessee for Dallas to begin to study the Bible. My mentor was a former missionary in Nazareth. In the fall of 1977, he took me to Israel. And simply put, my life and my destiny was changed forever. As a minister, I've traveled to Israel more than 100 times. Spending as many as 8 weeks a year in the land of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Israel is my spiritual home. I know Israel as well as I know Knoxville.
After college, I pursued a career in politics. And of course, given my upbringing, I considered myself a pro-Israel activist. But my first AIPAC policy conference in 1987 made me realize that saying you're an activist doesn't mean that you actually are. You have to do the work.
In 2009, I traveled to Israel on a mission sponsored by AIPAC's Education Foundation. AIPAC showed me a different side of the Jewish state, and it changed my destiny. As it turns out, I've been preaching the AIPAC message for years. I just didn't realize it. I loved Israel, but AIPAC taught me how to be an advocate for the Jewish state.
Pro-Israel plus bipartisan political activism. That's the magic equation. It's really that simple. At AIPAC, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat like me or a Republican like Tony, you are in the right place. We find a home within AIPAC, not in spite of our differences, but because of them. We need each other, and this cause needs us both.
This Southern pastor and this left coast liberal, we are colleagues. We serve on AIPAC's National Council. We lobby and learn together. And when we go to Capitol Hill, we advocate for the same issues because those issues keep America strong and Israel safe. When I called to check on my Israeli friends this summer, as Hamas rockets fell out of the sky, every one of them said, "Thank God for Iron Dome." And the only thing I would add is thank God for the U.S. Congress and thank God for AIPAC.
Being thankful for Iron Dome is a sentiment I understand. This past summer, my family celebrated my son's bar mitzvah in Israel. We were in Tel Aviv when the first rockets rained down. As we took cover, we heard the boom of Iron Dome intercepting 2 missiles. My 13-year-old son looked at me and said, "So this is what you do?" "What do you mean?" I asked. He responded, "AIPAC. Iron Dome is what AIPAC does." Without the United States, Israel would struggle to survive. Without AIPAC, the U.S.-Israel friendship is not as strong and might not last. Without the people in this room, all of you, there is no AIPAC. Iron Dome, security assistance, working to stop Iran's march toward a nuclear bomb, none of this happens without all of us.
So we stand together, opposites in nearly every way, but we are brothers. We are friends. Friends and allies in this important cause. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former CNN anchor Frank Sesno.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my third day back here. We're going to have to stop meeting like this. They're going to start to talk. We're honored this morning to be joined by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He was first elected in 1984. I think he was just 21 years old at the time. He's been an outspoken advocate of the U.S.-Israel relationship during his 30 years representing Kentucky in the United States Senate. Senator McConnell has traveled to Israel and to the region many times. He's sponsored many relevant pieces of legislation. As I said, he's been an outspoken advocate throughout. This past summer, he sponsored the bipartisan legislation that you just heard referenced, providing Israel with an additional $225 million in funding for Iron Dome to defend against incoming Hamas rockets. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Senator Mitch McConnell. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming over here. We might as well just dive right in, since diving is what this is all about. The big event today is the Prime Minister's speech. I've asked people up here before. I'd ask you, what are you listening for?
Well, we obviously are interested in his opinion about the nuclear deal with Iran that appears to be on the verge of being made. And I think there's no question that Iran is the biggest threat to Israel's very existence, and no small threat to us as well, and an exporter of terrorism all over the world, and in particular in the Middle East. The question is, can you make a credible deal with a country like that? I'm pretty skeptical. Lots of members of Congress are skeptical. And so we're interested in his opinion and expect to hear it this morning.
When he was here yesterday, the Prime Minister said he means no disrespect, but he has a moral obligation, his words, to speak out about his concerns in these negotiations. President Obama, in his interview with Reuters yesterday, acknowledged substantial disagreement between his administration and the Israeli government over how to achieve a goal that both countries share, which is an Iran that does not have a bomb or can't get a bomb. How do you think these two countries can manage their alliance even as they manage these deep differences?
Well, I suspect that a majority of Congress does not disagree with the Prime Minister of Israel. And Congress under the Constitution, Frank, as we all know, has a role to play in foreign policy. And there are two measures measures that most everybody here at the conference is familiar with. The Kirk bill, which basically would be operative if there were not an agreement, to ratchet up the sanctions further. Then there is a proposal by Senator Corker and Senator Lindsey Graham that would require this agreement come to Congress for approval. Typically, nuclear agreements like this are sent to Congress. The administration's made it clear they don't want to send either one of these to Congress and don't want to support either one of them, leading us to have a suspicion that they're on the cusp of making a bad deal. So you can tell that I'm very skeptical, but I'm willing to listen. And I think there is no country in the world that could give us better advice about whether this is a deal that ought to be made than Israel and their prime minister.
So let me ask you this. Yesterday here, Susan Rice, National Security Advisor, said we cannot let a totally unachievable deal stand in the way of a good deal. She also made reference to her approach, the administration's approach, distrust and verify. What, in your view, should be the necessary elements or the good elements of a good deal with?
Well, they've already given away too much. I mean, the elements of this deal the elements of this deal that appears to be close to being made has already given away way too much. And so I would be shocked if this was an agreement, if reached, that would be one that very many people in this audience would support, or very many people in Congress would support.
So what would you support?
What we need to do is have an agreement with them, which I suspect would be very difficult to achieve, that means they cannot enrich.
At all, period.
At all. At all. The administration...
This happens when you speak in the Congress, too, right?
Well, you know, the administration would say, well, that's just not achievable, and I would say it is. It is. What brought Iran to the table? The sanctions. The administration didn't want the sanctions that we gave them. I had to get recognition from the chair. I was the minority leader at the time. That's not as good as being the majority leader. And we were able to get onto the floor a vote giving the president the authority to implement the sanctions that, to his credit, he implemented. That's what brought him to the table. So if you hear from somebody who's saying the choice is either a deal or war, the choice is either a deal or tougher sanctions that really squeeze them.
Last one on this. Last one on this for the record here. If there is no framework deal, as announced by the 24th of March deadline, will the Kirk-Menendez legislation that you referenced be brought to the floor?
Will what?
Kirk-Menendez be brought to the floor?
Well, look, one of the things the majority leader gets to do that the minority leader didn't get to do is to schedule business in the Senate. So let me just say, so there's no possibility of misunderstanding. If there's a deal, we'll be voting on Cork or Graham. If there's not a deal, we'll be voting on Kirk Menendez. You know, you have to ask yourself the question, why would the administration not want the representatives of everybody in America to vote on something of this consequence? I mean, it leads you to the suspicion that this is not going to be a very good deal. And we don't want to make a bad deal with these people. This regime, whether it's the nuclear threat or whether it's funding and fomenting terrorism around the world, this is one of the worst regimes in the world. The thought that we could consummate an agreement with them, even if it were a good one, that they're likely to keep, makes one pretty skeptical. So the choice is not this deal or war. The choice is this deal or serious sanctions that really squeeze them. We know that works. The other thing that's helping is $50 a barrel oil. Can't guarantee that's going to stay at that price very long, but at the moment, they're hurting that way as well.
Let me zoom out with you for a minute. The entire region is in turmoil. You mentioned to me backstage that you think you've been to Israel and the region close to a dozen times. So you know it well. You've talked to people in leadership throughout the region and certainly experts here. What do you see as the most serious foreign policy, national security concerns, obviously you've mentioned Iran, in the region, facing Israel, facing the United States of America?
Well, we've discussed one of them, and that's the possibility of Iran becoming a nuclear-armed country. The second one, obviously, is the extremism, the radical Muslim organizations like ISIL and other groups in the Arabian Peninsula, Al-Qaeda still around, look, this is an extremely dangerous period in world history. I remember the relief that we all felt when the Berlin Wall came down and the Cold War ended, and everybody thought, boy, this is really going to be
New
wonderful.
world order, right?
Yeah, peace in our time. This, in many ways, is much more dangerous. You've got nobody.
More dangerous.
Yeah, you've got nobody to negotiate with. When you had a conflict between countries, usually somebody won and somebody lost, and the prisoners went home, and
there was some sense of rules. There was even with the bad guys.
Yeah. So look, passivity is not the answer to this, and as much as we hate. As much as we hate conflict, the key to success is a strong American military allied with a strong Israeli military. And these people are going to have to be defeated. Now, it's easy to say that. The question is, how do you do it? And maybe that's not where you want to go. But
No, that's fine. If you finish your point.
Well, let me just say, I think as the one country in the world, the one indispensable nation in the world is the United States, a force for good. And typically, nothing happens unless we step up and lead. And I think the president is slowly coming to the right place, which is that America is going to have to lead. It doesn't necessarily involve, at this point, troops on the ground, but ISIL is going to have to be defeated by troops on the ground. We're going to have to train them. Maybe they're the Kurds, maybe the Iraqi military, if retrained, could operate better than it has in the past. But these people are not going away.
It's going to be a long haul.
It is going to be a long haul, and the longer we finesse this, the longer the haul will be.
Let me end where I began, which is the speech today and the relationship between these two countries. There's been tension between presidents and prime ministers in the past. Congress has been, on this one, pretty consistent with respect to the relationship with Israel. Today, though, there will be some who are not attending the prime minister's speech. How do you assess the mood now? Some worry this could become a partisan issue. How does that transpire or get avoided?
Look, I think there may be a small minority of Democrats who don't go. I expect they'll be watching in their offices. I think the administration, by taking offense at the speaker's and my invitation to the prime minister, made this a much bigger deal than it should have been. The facts are these. Put aside the Israeli election. Just put it aside. The facts are these. March the 24th happens to be the drop-dead date, apparently, on this agreement. Why would we not want to hear from the Prime Minister of Israel, whoever that may be at any given time, about a deal that could threaten the very existence of Israel? I mean, it's obvious this is the time to be hearing from the Prime Minister of Israel related to this issue. So it's timely, it's important. We've never had, in my time in the Senate, a speech to a joint session that's had this much interest. Everybody's trying to get a ticket. And
you got a ticket?
No.
You don't have a ticket?
I've got a long waiting line of people who wanted them that I couldn't make happen.
I think you'll get in.
Yeah. So look, this is timely, it's important, and Congress will speak. Let me just say this to all of you here. Congress will be speaking. I won't say, as one other well-known Republican politician once said, read my lips.
I remember that.
But I will say, if there is a deal, we will be voting on Corker and Graham. If there is not a deal, we'll be voting on Kirk and Menendez, and we'll be voting soon.
Senator McConnell, thank you very much. Appreciate it. A lot to watch, a lot to listen for.
When I first came to Israel, I was 28.
The first time I visited Israel, I was 6 years old.
I was 14. It was a week-long family vacation.
I was in high school, and I came on a program called Nifty in Israel.
I was on a USY program called Nativ.
I came to Israel the first time in 1968. I was 15 years old, and I fell in love.
My uncle taught me this wonderful line. He said, whenever you're asked, when are you going next to Israel, the answer should always be on the first. Some people say, the first of what? And you just say, the first chance I get. And that's how I've been living my life for the last 20-odd years.
Israel matters to me because it's the land of our people.
It's the place of my ancestors. It's my roots. It's fun. It's meaningful. I'm happier here than anywhere in the world.
Israel matters to me because I'm a Zionist and a Jew who believes strongly in the survival and strength of the Jewish people.
It is the opportunity for our people to find renewal and a new life.
It's a place where we come just to enjoy and vacation together and relish the past, but also celebrate the Jewish future.
AIPAC secures the relationship between the United States of America and Israel.
AIPAC's work is important because it brings together a whole tapestry of people from all walks of Jewish and non-Jewish life.
AIPAC is the best way for Americans to commit to Israel.
It makes a profound difference in the life of the state of Israel.
What AIPAC does is, rather than just letting you sit there and talk about how much you love Israel, lets you get up and do something about it.
It helps secure the future of the Jewish state, and for me personally, it helps me channel my energies and my commitment into something that makes a real difference.
So AIPAC has been instrumental in cementing the ironclad relationship between the United States and Israel. And there is nothing more important than the survival of my family, and I have AIPAC to thank for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rabbis Jonathan Birkin, Dan Cohen, and Denise Egger.
Watching those images from last summer, as my colleagues and I reflected on our love for Israel, it's easy to forget that our stay, it was anything but calm and peaceful.
We were visiting Israel with colleagues from progressive rabbis from the Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox movements as part of a trip sponsored by AIPAC's Educational Foundation. We were there to expand our understanding of the opportunities and challenges facing the Jewish state.
It was our first night in Israel. We had just gone to dinner, and we were returning to our hotel in Jerusalem when sirens began to wail. Sirens in Jerusalem? Rockets in Jerusalem? Each of us had been to Israel numerous times, But this was different.
The concierge led us to the hotel's shelter. It's just pretend. One young boy said to his little sister, "It's just pretend." If only that had been the case. But the rockets directed at Jerusalem that night and in the days that followed, they were all too real. 2 days later, we were at a government building for a briefing when the words "Tseva Adom," red alert, interrupted the meeting. We were told to stay put. The briefing room was a secure space. And in typical Israeli fashion, our speaker continued with his briefing as if there was nothing unusual taking place. A few minutes later, when we filed out of the building and headed to the bus, we all instinctively looked up.
Just above us, standing out in the beautiful blue summer sky, was a trail of smoke. Iron Dome had intercepted a rocket right over the building where all of us were gathered. Iron Dome saved my life and the lives of my rabbinic colleagues that day. We know what this organization did to help secure the funding for Iron Dome. And we know what AIPAC does every single day to help to protect the lives of millions of Israelis. But feeling it and seeing it, and most of all, experiencing it myself firsthand, is something that we will never forget.
As rabbis who are progressive Zionists, we are often asked, "What do you believe?" As if somehow being a progressive in America automatically discounts you from being a supporter of Israel. Far from it. We love Israel because the very values we hold dear are embodied in the Jewish state, a country rooted in democracy, freedom, and equality.
So what do I believe? I believe in Tikkun Olam, the notion that the world is not complete and that we are God's partners in completing it. I believe in marriage equality and caring for our rivers and streams and protecting the air we breathe and the water we drink. And I believe in a vibrant and strong Israel that works in partnership with America to help create a better world.
What do I believe? I believe "Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha," in loving your neighbor as yourself. I believe in accepting others not despite of their differences, but because of those differences. Because those differences enhance or enrich our lives. I believe in equality and fairness, and that all God's children are created with the capacity to do good in this world. And I believe in a strong and secure Israel, and that AIPAC is the best organization to help ensure the safety and security of our people.
What do I believe? I believe in lo tuchal lehitalem, in standing up and speaking out for our values. I believe in walking humbly with our God, and that sometimes that walk will take us to the streets in protests and solidarity, and other times the walk will lead us inside the Capitol Hill offices of our nation's leaders to engage in the truly holy work of political advocacy. I believe in working together with AIPAC for the day when the skies of Israel will only be lit with the fireworks of Yom HaAtzmaut, for a day when children won't have to run for shelter and parents won't have to worry about the fate of young soldiers.
Ladies and gentlemen, our values and beliefs and our love for Israel lead us not only to our nation's capital, but to the nation's pro-Israel lobby. Because when people ask us what we believe in, we tell them unequivocally and with pride, we believe in AIPAC. Thank you.
Whenever I come down south, I always feel inspired. Somehow there's a magic between the sun and the landscape. It kind of calms me and it frees my mind, and it allows me to dream a little bit more than usual. Here we are at Kibbutz Shuval in the northern Negev. 60% of Israel is desert. Look at the sun, it's perfect, and there's plenty of sun. We could actually power the whole country. My kids call me Abba, and sometimes I get called Captain Sunshine. And I actually have the magic ring here, which is a coin from the Second Temple in Jerusalem with a sun on it, actually. Before I moved to Israel, we decided to come to Israel for just 2 years as a family to hang out on a small kibbutz in the south of the country where I had been a volunteer 25 years earlier. So we came for 2 years, and we've been here over 8 years. I had the privilege of partnering with Kibbutz Keturah at Hoffman and David Rosenblatt in New Jersey, and together we formed the first solar company in Israel for Israel, the Arava Power Company. So it kind of looks like almost like a pond when you first, like water when you first, which is a neat thing to see in the desert. When we were building the first solar field, it was amazing what happened. It was really, if you build it, they will come. It really was the field of our dreams. And in that year of building, people from 58 countries came to see us and said, hey, Startup Nation, can you help jumpstart our solar industry? Energia USA, which is our US-based affiliate for a solar company, signed a deal with Georgia Power to supply 17.6 megawatts to the Glenn County area, and Georgia Power is the off-taker. It's a pretty big field. It's actually 3 times the size of Kibbutz Shuval's field. Solar power is clearly the power of peace because the sun doesn't recognize any of the boundaries. From here in the Negev, we've been able to not only sprout the solar revolution here in Israel, but we're pleased that it's been able to spread now to Africa, to electrify Africa, that it's going to the United States to help the world's only superpower go solar, and certainly for our neighbors. Soon we're going to see the first commercial scale solar fields in Jordan and in the Palestinian Authority. And this contributes to peace. I learned political activism at AIPAC as an intern, as a college campus activist, and I get to use those lobbying skills all over the world now to help the world go green.
Ladies and gentlemen, President of Energia Global, Yosef Abramowitz. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome retired Marine Corps Special Operations Officer Derek Herrera.
Thank you. Thank you. Life is defined by the choices we make. Our choices matter. They define who we are, who we become. Sometimes our ability to succeed, to overcome, to persevere is a choice. I chose to serve in the United States Marine Corps. I am a Marine. I deployed 3 times in the service of this nation. First, to Iraq. Second, to other countries in the Middle East. And third, to Afghanistan. Events that occurred in Afghanistan altered the course of my life. The morning of June 14th, 2012, my Special Operations Unit was in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. And while leading my team on patrol, I was shot by an enemy fighter. I fell over and felt a stinging, pulsing sensation in the center of my back. Attempted to pick myself up and continue to fight, but was paralyzed from the chest down. After months of physical therapy, my progress had reached a plateau, and I began to come to grips with the fact that my condition may be permanent. These types of injuries certainly affect your body, but they can also affect your mind and your spirit as well. Around that same time, I was informed that 3 of my friends, still fighting in Afghanistan, were killed in action. I trained alongside Captain Matthew Manukian, Gunnery Sergeant Ryan Jeske, and Staff Sergeant Sky Moat, and deployed to Afghanistan with them. Losing them reinforced the fact that my teammates, the men I was supposed to be leading, were still in harm's way. I felt isolated, anxious, and guilty. Guilty that I wasn't able to fulfill my duties of leading these men in combat. But losing Matt, Ryan, and Sky made me realize that I had opportunity. I had a choice of whether I would continue to fight to make this country great. I made the decision to live every day in a way that would make my team, my family, and my community proud. I took action. I researched innovative therapies and cutting-edge solutions for spinal cord injury and disease. And that's when I found ReWalk. Many of you know about ReWalk. Designed in Israel, it gives people like me with paraplegia and spinal cord injury the ability to walk again. ReWalk doesn't work with the ease of a wheelchair yet, but it's a game changer. Last spring, I traveled to Israel to meet the people behind ReWalk and others on the leading edge of medical research. I've seen how Israeli technology can change lives, how a nation willing to take risks can tackle the seemingly impossible. There are unique challenges facing the paraplegic community, many of which have no current solution. But in the spirit of the Israeli people, I plan to launch my own startup. And I draw inspiration from scientists like those I met at the Technion, Israel's Institute of Technology. With the right partners, I know that we can use technology to improve the quality of life for those with spinal cord injury and disease. Late last year, I retired from the Marine Corps. After 8 years of service, the time had come to move on. My retirement ceremony was an opportunity for my family, friends, and team who had played a role in my recovery to come together and celebrate. Because of ReWalk, because of Israel, I was able to leave the Marine Corps the same way I went in, on my own 2 feet. I stood and accepted the Bronze Star Medal and my retirement paperwork, and I stood to salute the American flag for the last time as a Marine officer. I've witnessed the Israeli people stand and rise above their challenges to make the entire world a better place. It's a nation that I'm beginning to understand and that I am honored to support. All over this conference, you see the declaration that this is Israel. Well, this is Israel, and I thank God for her existence. Thank you.
Today is Lobbying Day, the highlight of Policy Conference and one of the most important days of the year for the U.S.-Israel relationship. Before you leave for meetings on the Hill, please check your personal schedule on the AIPAC app to confirm your appointment times and locations. Updated information is also available on monitors throughout the convention center. Prime Minister Netanyahu will be on the Hill today. Please attend your lobbying appointments and arrive early to account for heightened security on the Hill. If you would like to watch the Prime Minister's speech, check your inbox for a link to stream it live. Buses will leave for Capitol Hill immediately following this session and will drop you off at Garfield Circle. Buses returning to the Convention Center will pick up from Peace Circle and will run until 3:45. House offices are located on the south side of the Hill, in the Rayburn, Longworth, and Cannon buildings. Senate offices are located on the north side of Capitol Hill, in the Russell, Dirksen, and Hart buildings. A map of Capitol Hill can be found in the lobbying section of the AIPAC app. Each building on the Hill has multiple entrances with plenty of AIPAC staff. Look for people wearing blue caps and jackets who will guide you through security. Before you start your meeting, you should review the talking points and lobbying materials. Be sure to follow your group leader who will guide the meeting. Remember to have fun and stay on point. Be sure to thank your elected officials and their staff for their time and support.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC Deputy Director for Policy and Government Affairs, David Gillette.
Good morning. Over the last 2 days, you've heard from world leaders and top experts. You've asked questions and learned facts. And today, we will take this important information up to Capitol Hill to lobby Congress on the urgency of stopping Iran. Now remember, there are 3 main points that we have to convey to the Congress. First, diplomacy. We need to support diplomacy by increasing pressure on Iran. We need to urge senators to support the Kirk-Menendez Nuclear Weapon-Free Iran Act of 2015. The bill is bipartisan and supports America's diplomatic efforts to resolve the Iranian nuclear crisis. It puts in place new sanctions if no deal is reached by the deadline. And it allows the president to waive these new sanctions for short periods of time if he feels a deal is within reach. This legislation offers the best way forward for diplomacy to succeed and to persuade the Iranians to accept a good agreement. So be sure to ask your senators to co-sponsor and support this legislation when the time comes. And if they've already co-sponsored it, say thank you. Second, urge Congress to insist on a good deal. We're concerned. We're concerned about reports that the U.S. and our negotiating partners are backing down from their demands and would allow Iran to retain thousands of centrifuges. Today, we have to remind senators and representatives what a good deal looks like. And we need to reiterate that Iran must dismantle its uranium centrifuges. It must dismantle its plutonium reactor at Iraq. Iran has to grant inspectors full access and come clean about past weapons programs. And Iran must agree to gradual sanctions relief and an agreement that lasts for decades, not just years. Finally, our third point. Congress must have a say in any final deal. For 25 years, Congress has played a key role in getting Iran to the negotiating table. Today, Congress must continue to play this role. Congress must insist on reviewing any agreement, and if necessary, it must object to a bad deal. So, in the House of Representatives, we will ask members of Congress to sign on to the Royce-Engel letter to the President. This letter outlines the acceptable terms of a final deal. It emphasizes the role that Congress must play, and it highlights Iran's destructive behaviors in the region. In the Senate, we will ask senators to co-sponsor and support the Corker-Menendez bill, the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act of 2015. This legislation will require the administration to submit any agreement with Iran to the Congress and will give Congress the opportunity to disapprove a bad deal. This is a historic moment for America's pro-Israel community. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you will do today and in the weeks and the months ahead. Together we will ensure that the United States and Israel, two great allies, will always stand shoulder to shoulder. Thank you very much, and good luck on Capitol Hill. Thank you.
I grew up loving Israel. I grew up reading and preaching its stories and understanding from what my mother taught me that Israel should be honored.
Both my parents survived the Holocaust. I grew up in a family where virtually every day my parents talked about the importance of the state of Israel, how they had in their lifetime no homeland that would accept them, no place that would take them, and today we have the state of Israel.
My family immigrated to Mexico from Russia, Poland, Austria, Syria, and Lebanon. So what does that make me? What that makes me is Jewish. And when you are Jewish, you have a homeland, and that homeland is the state of Israel, and how can you not be passionate about your homeland?
Israel's just part of who I am. I mean, I don't live there, I wasn't born there, but I was raised as it being important in my life.
The moment I stepped off the plane, there has been just an unexplainable, almost a mysterious passion for the love for that country, the love for its people.
Even if it's been years since I was last visiting, I just immediately feel like I just came home.
What makes me passionate about Israel is that we are living in the time of a miracle. The Jewish people have waited 2,000 years to return to their homeland, and we have a collective responsibility to do something every day to sustain that miracle.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome lead pastor of Hillview Heights Church, Dr. Stephen L. Ayers.
As a young boy in Kentucky, I grew up in a household of faith where the story of Israel was always taught and it was always revered. Well, the first biblical story that truly caught my attention and struck my imagination was about a mighty giant who had cowered the army of Israel, and about a young man named David who went to the front lines to bring his brothers some lunch so the fight could continue. Israel, giants, lunch, a fight. I was all in. And David, as he heard this vile giant hurling slurs and insults at Israel, not much has changed, huh? Well, here was his approach. His heart began to burn, and he said, "This cannot happen." So you know what he did? He took what he had in his hand. He took what he had, and he had a slingshot. And he had 5 rocks, and he stood up. And as many of you know, he defeated this mighty giant. As an adult, this story of David and Goliath, this story has stayed with me all of my life. Because you know what it reminds me and reminds us today of? There's always a way to overcome. No matter the odds, no matter the situation, no matter what they say, there's always a way to overcome. Israel's journey, it has been one of great success. But guess what? It's also been one of great struggle. During World War II, my father-in-law, who I was very close to, was one of those soldiers that went and fought and liberated the wonderful Jewish people from the horrid, vile situation they found themselves in. For some odd reason, I was the guy he chose to decompress the war with toward the end of his life. One night, sitting there on the porch as he was going through what happened and I was listening with all attention, he looked at me and he said, "You know, you got a big mouth." I laughed. I said, "I do." And then he took that big finger and he pointed at me and he said, "Never let something like this ever happen again." Shortly after that, I was invited in 2009 to go with AIPAC and to participate on one of the educational trips. After we returned from Israel, AIPAC asked me, "Would you be willing to support Israel?" Well, that was an easy yes. As a man of faith, my spiritual roots have always been in Israel. But AIPAC, they showed me the modern day Jewish state, a nation that wants to see all people free A nation that values each human being as important. A nation that wants to innovate and to progress. I can be with a nation like that. What about you? And you know, today, right now, in this moment, today, despite 3,000 years of struggle, many giants still remain. And you know what giants are? They're giants. And calling a giant a smurf won't make it a smurf. So you know, I was wondering, with this whole AIPAC thing, I was wondering, you know, what is a man like me, how can I help all these brilliant, intelligent people? I mean, they graduate from places like Harvard. Down south, we graduate from places with state on the end of it. So how can a guy like me that hunts and fishes and stays outside and just loves life to the fullest, how can I help? Well, you know what AIPAC reminded me of? I have 2 senators just like everybody else. I have a congressperson just like everybody else. And I realized that if I truly believed in this relationship with Israel, I needed to step up. And I needed to use what I have in my hand. And what do I have? I have my faith. I have my story. I have my friends. I have a congregation with a few folks in it. I have the ability to influence, to educate all the people that surround me. And you know what else I have? And you have this too. The responsibility to correct any misperception about Israel. These are crucial times. Now hear me. We're at a moment. Now in my tradition you would say, amen. We're at a moment. There you go. We're at a moment where the giants have emerged once again. And we at AIPAC, we must not grow weary, but we must stand together now more than ever. I make this journey every year because I've seen that our ability to talk with our congresspeople, it honestly and it truly makes a difference. So today I challenge you just as I have been challenged these past days to support Israel like you never have before, to step up, to make a difference, to be more involved, because I tell you, Israel is worth our support. Israel, it is a great nation with great people who have struggled and guess what? Overcome again and again and again. It is a nation that believes in the things I believe in. So like the great story of David, every one of us holds something in our hands. We've been given something. What do you hold in your hand today? You hold in your hand the story of Israel, the ability to educate, to encourage others so they will know the contribution of America's great ally and great friend. You have 2 senators and a congressperson. And today, they will hear your voice. There are many giants on our horizon. But you know what I know? When we step up, and when we step out, and when we step forward, giants fall. And people rise. Today I tell you, it is time and it is past time that the knees of this evil giant buckle and the sanity, the hope, the peace, and the power of the people rise. May God bless you. May God bless the United States. May God bless Israel. And may God bless the effort of this day. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AIPAC Chief Executive Officer Howard Kaur.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next activity together is the most important part of this conference. I want to wish you the best in your Capitol Hill conversations and have a safe journey home. Thank you for being part of the AIPAC Policy Conference, and we'll see you next year.
When I was a young woman, Israel was declared a state.
We're all connected by our love and passion for Israel.
I cannot imagine the world without Israel.
This is our community. This is our family. This is Israel.
Israel's security and the U.S.-Israel partnership transcends politics, and it always will.
A strong U.S.-Israel relationship makes America, Israel, and our world a safer place. While the challenge is great, when we act together, so are we.
Policy Conference is always on my calendar, and certainly this year is no exception.
It's just a great atmosphere for really meaningful conversations and discussion.
Israel is an issue that everyone should care about and everyone needs to hear about.
And being here at the Policy Conference, it makes all the difference.
Nobody else comes at this issue from a bipartisan view.
And you're going to lend voice to the U.S.-Israel relationship better than any politician could ever hope to do.
We can never allow Israel to become a political wedge issue. It's too important to the United States. It's got to be off limits.
AIPAC taught me how to stand up for the things that I believe in. And the most important thing to me was ensuring the safety and the security of the State of Israel.
Our alliance is sound, our friendship is strong, and with your efforts, it will get even stronger in the years to come. Thank you, AIPAC. Thank you, America. God bless you all.
איתך רחוק ללכת, איך עדי בי לבך